Here, give it a try.
There we go. Okay, Harriet, I think you're ready to go.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Harriet Parker, and I'd like to call the May 9th, 2023 meeting of the Nevada Emergency Coordinating Council to order. Ms. Whipple, can you conduct a roll call, please?
Yes. Harriet Parker,
Present.
Sukaki Charlie,
Here.
Jackie Conway, Dwayne Masters Sr.,
Here.
Don Pelt, Marian Perez, Ken Coiner, just saw you. We'll come back around. Ross Rivera,
Here.
Daniel Thayer,
Here.
David Fogerson,
Here.
Emily Gould. She said that she was going to be late. You do have quorum, Harriet.
For the record, Ken Quiner's here.
Perfect. Thank you, Ken.
Great, thank you, Ms. Whipple. And I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to participate today. As a friendly reminder, please double check that your microphone is on mute unless you are actively speaking. Also, when speaking, please identify yourself before you speak in order to assist the staff with the minutes. With that, we'll close out agenda item number 1 and move on to agenda item number 2. This is public comment for discussion only. No action may be taken upon a matter raised under this item of the agenda until the matter itself has been specifically included on an agenda as an item upon which action may be taken. Public comments may be limited to 3 minutes per person at the discretion of the co-chairs. Comments will not be restricted based on viewpoint. And to provide testimony during this period of public comment via telephone, please call in anytime after 12:30 today by dialing the number provided on the agenda. When prompted to provide the meeting ID, also provided on the agenda, when prompted for a participant ID, please press pound. When asked to provide public comment, please press *6 to unmute your phone and *6 again when your comments are complete. Also, please be advised that the YouTube stream will be between 60 and 90 minutes, or 90 minutes, 60 to 90 seconds behind the live meeting. If you would like to present public comment, please call in using the number provided on the agenda to hear the meeting live. While we wait for the lag time to catch up, are there any public comments up north?
Harriet, this is Shrine Whipple. For the record, there are none up north.
Thank you. Are there any public comments on the phone?
Harriet, this is Shrine Whipple. For the record, there are nobody on the phone.
There is someone with their hand up in
Yes.
Teams.
Yeah, but there is one in Zoom land.
Ms. Davis, I turn it over to you.
Melissa, we can't hear you.
Yeah, we can't hear anything.
Ms. Davis, we are unable. Oh, are you there? Oh, you're still having trouble. We can't hear you, unfortunately. So what we'll do is we'll hold off on your comment until you can get that fixed. We do have public comment at the end of the agenda as well. Is that okay? Okay, with that, we will close out agenda item number 2 and move on to agenda item number 3. This is the approval of minutes for discussion and possible action. The NTECC will review and discuss the minutes of the November 2nd, 2022 and the February 2nd, 2023 NTECC meetings. The NTECC will determine whether to approve the meeting minutes. You all should have been provided a copy of the draft minutes from the November 2nd, 2022 and the February 2nd, 2023 meetings. And thank you to all the staff there that works on those minutes. I know it's a lot of work. Members, please review, and when you're ready, I'll take a motion to amend or approve. Does anyone have any changes for the November 2nd, 2022 meeting minutes? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the November 2nd, 2022 NTECC meeting minutes, please?
This is Ross Rivera. I make that motion.
This is Dwayne Masters. I'll second that.
Thank you both. Are there any discussion? Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say no. All right, motion passes to approve the November 2nd, 2022 meeting minutes. Now regarding the February 2nd, 2023 meeting minutes, were there any changes that anyone noticed? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the February 2nd, 2023 meeting minutes, please?
Ken Quiner for the record moves to approve.
Ross Rivera will second that.
Gentlemen, is there any discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approved.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Hearing none, thank you. The motion passes to approve the February 2nd, 2023 meeting minutes. Thank you, everyone. And with that, we will close out agenda item number 3 and we'll move on to agenda item number 4. I clear this from my screen. This is a discussion on the status of the DEM-HS efforts to assist our tribal nations. This is for discussion only. Co-chair David Fogerson with DEM is interested in hearing feedback on the status of the DEM-HS programs as they relate to tribal nation protection, prevention, response, mitigation, and recovery efforts for emergency management, homeland security, and public health preparedness. The NTECC members are encouraged to discuss ways that DEM-HS can improve its efforts to better support their needs. Co-chair Fogerson will solicit input from the individual NTECC members on possible tribal representatives to serve on the NTECC. Chief Fogerson, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate that. The same standing agenda item we have on every one of our meetings, just looking to see if from any of the committee members, if there's any feedback on what we could be doing better to support you more on the tribal nations or the relationship status we got between all of us. So just like always, if you don't want to say it here, my email and my phone's always open. If you got ideas on things we can do to help, I'll take it there as well. So if anybody's got anything, please let us know.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Not hearing anyone speak up. Hopefully, as Chief said, you can send him an email if you have something that you'd prefer to discuss outside of this meeting. I don't see any hands either. All right, thank you, Chief. That closes out agenda item number 4, and we'll next move onto agenda item number 5. This is discussion of bill draft requests for the 2023 session. This is for discussion only. Co-Chair Ferguson will share the BDRs submitted by the division and solicit input from the NTECC on legislative needs related to emergency management and homeland security for the 2023 session. Chief Ferguson, I hand it back over to you, sir.
Thank you, Chair, once again. So I think we've covered this at the two prior meetings of the agency. We do have 4 bills. One of the bills is related to school safety, and it relates to when school safety plans are due. One's related to the membership on the Homeland Security Commission. One's related to the ability to spend funds during an emergency for the division. And then the 4th one is a fix to sharing protected health information following a major incident. All of them have passed the first house and have now moved on to the second house. And so we're just awaiting hearings on those as we move forward. Haven't really had any pushback or any questions back to the agency on any of these bills from any of our partners or from the legislators that seem to be too much out of line. And see if Jared or John, who've been going to the meetings as well, or actually for us, have any feedback on that as well. Please.
So this is John Backett, for the record. There is another bill out there that we did attend on, and I'm just drawing a blank on the number right now, so apologies. It was on the sheltering, and specifically, it was an onus on the locals. Should you open a shelter, you have to make every attempt to open a shelter for animals, pets as well, and including transportation to and from the shelter for the owner and the pet. So since it didn't affect the state, we did not step forward and testify for or against, but we did work with local partners, the bill drafter and the supporter of it, the ASPCA, and the senator out of Las Vegas, and worked with them on amending some of the language over the last couple of weeks. So we're hoping at their final submission of the bill and testimony that it will have cleaned it up a little bit, both defining pet as well as making sure it's crystal clear that you've made every attempt possible and kind of protecting the locals, and that includes tribal government, so that you're not on the hook from making sure everyone's pet is transported to and from that facility, especially people with allergies or somebody has a fear of animals. It allows you a lot more flexibility. So we have been tracking that bill. We have been monitoring it. We scheduled a meeting and worked with both local government as well as the bill drafter to try to amend that language. And we're hoping the next presentation, there's a little bit more friendliness to it in support of all of you who may have to open a shelter. That's it.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. So those are the status of our legislation relating to emergency management and homeland security in the current 2-year cycle. Pending any questions or any concerns anybody has on any of the stuff we've talked about at this meeting, previous meetings, or what you've heard through the various sources we have.
Are there any questions for members or comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll close out agenda item number 5 and we'll move on to agenda item number 6. This is an update on tribal health preparedness efforts. This is for discussion only with Emily Gould, a public health preparedness program. Ms. Gould will update the NTECC on the Division of Public and Behavioral Health's health preparedness efforts. Ms. Gould, I turn it over to you. Is she on the call?
Let me see.
Ms. Whipple, did I see an email from her?
She said that
Oh.
she may be late. But I don't see her on here and I haven't received any further emails from her.
Okay.
We can just table it if you want, and then we can come back to it. You're kind of cutting in and out there a little bit, Harriet.
Okay, let's go ahead and table agenda item number 6. And we'll try again to see if she's able to join us. We'll come back to number 6. And then let's move on to agenda item number 7. This is an update on presidential major disaster declaration. This is for discussion only. Co-chair David Fogerson will provide an update on the status and progress of the major disaster declaration for the March 2023 weather event. I saw he stepped away from the table.
Yes, good afternoon, committee members and guests. Jared Franco, CFO for DEM for the record. Chief Fogerson had to step out, so I'll take this one for him real quick. So I'm sure as most or all of you have heard, we have received the presidential declaration and we are starting to move into the recovery efforts. We have scheduled applicant briefings this week as well as next week for the affected counties that have declared and are part of the presidential declaration. What that means is the first step for those declared counties is requesting public assistance or RPAs, as FEMA likes to call them with all those acronyms. We will be holding the first of those meetings tomorrow and then next week as well. We have a due date to get all of the RPA's requests for public assistance in by May 26th of this month, which will then start the process of recovering the damaged counties back to where they were prior to the disaster. I see Chief Fogerson is back, so if he has anything else to add, I'll let him finish off.
And thanks, Jared. Sorry I had to take that phone call. So we had a number of tribal nations that did declare disaster and submitted us the items for it, but none of them had damage that amounted to meeting the requirements for the federal declaration. So none of the tribal nations get in on the presidential declaration, but I do feel that the Yamba tribe is probably there, and the Yamba tribe, we just need to reach out to them and we can add them onto the presidential declaration should we get enough damage from them to add on to it. Didn't sound like anybody else really suffered the amount of threshold damage, and it really is a dollar amount for public infrastructure. So it's looking at your own roads, your own structures, your own any infrastructure that isn't covered by insurance. So it kind of becomes very specific, and they are, I mean, they in the Lyon County example, they looked at a ditch and said, yep, sure does look like water came through here, but when was the last time you cleaned a ditch, and how much soil did you pull out of that ditch the last time you cleaned it? And then they're making a calculation that, okay, so 2 years ago you cleaned out 15 cubic feet worth of dirt, so now there's 30 cubic feet of dirt. Well, how much of that came from the flood and how much of that was just because you haven't cleaned a ditch in 2 years? That's the level of detail they get into. But we are going to make contact the Yamba tribe for sure to see if we can get a damage assessment team to go out and make that, because we did send some folks out there between FEMA and us, but there wasn't the right team to go out there. And I do have about 2.5 more weeks if we get them on board to ask for be added to the presidential declaration. We're always here to help and always here for advice and counsel. And if anybody's got any questions on that status of things, please feel free to reach out to either Jared or myself. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Chief and Mr. Franco. Are there any questions from the members? All right, hearing none. I do see that Ms. Gould has signed on. So if she's ready, we're going to close out agenda item number 7 and go back to agenda item number 6. Ms. Gould, are you available?
Yes. Hi, Harriet. Thank you so much. I apologize for the delay. I was driving back from Hawthorne, had limited reception. So I just have a couple quick updates for you all. We do have our Rural Preparedness Summit coming up next month, June 14th and 15th. I know I've mentioned it a few times, but we do have quite a bit of openings still for people to register to attend. And we will be having several tribal focused trainings as well this year. So one of those trainings on June 14th will be an access and functional needs training with Heather Lafferty from DEM. And I think she's talking about the CMIST. It's a training model that DEM has been using with tribal focus. So there's that. And then on the 15th, we have Cliff Benuelos from ITCN. So he's doing another training. I think it's about, I'm so sorry, I have to look back at that, but I think it's resource requesting from federal partners and working with federal partners, how to make the most of that. So if you need more information, let me know and I can find that for you. And then I think we're also trying to find one more tribal specific plenary session to include with the group as well. But it'll be a very exciting event. We have a lot to offer this year, some fun stuff. So I hope you all can make it. If you do need that registration flyer, please let me know. I'm happy to send it again to you all. And then we've also been working on rolling out some expired PPE from the Southern Nevada warehouse. So everything that's going to expire within the next 6 months up to, I believe, December. We're trying to push that out. So our first wave went pretty quickly, but we do have more to supply everyone. So we are still accepting requests through, I believe, this Friday. So if you can just make sure you get those requests into us by Friday through an RRF form. It's the resource request from that DEM typically uses for requests, and then just send that over to the ESF8 desk, which I'm happy to drop in the chat box as well, so everyone has access to that. And then other than that, we just have a few large events this summer, like Night in the Country and Burning Man, that we're trying to plan for with our partners, making sure that we have everything in place with our mass casualty response plans, making sure those are up to date. Everything in our mass fatality trailers have been up to date as well. So all those supplies are no longer expired and everything's ready to go just in case something happens. Hopefully we're all good on that end, but just in case. And then I think also just standing by for support of the spring thaw incident, seeing what comes out of that. I know temperatures are rising and there's been a lot of increase in worry across the county. So we're just here to support however we can. Thank you.
Well, does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, this is Ross. I do. Maybe Emily could help the Shoshone tribe on, we have a mass casualty trailer, I believe that's what it is, with what we have on the inventory for that trailer. In case it's needed, I would like to know what that inventory is.
Okay, yeah. Would you mind dropping your email in the chat and then I'm happy to connect with you?
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ross.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments?
This is Ken Quiner for the record. Hey, I just wanted to say, Emily, that last year's summit, Preparedness Summit was fantastic and a lot of great information was passed. Did you guys know that this year's event is conflicting with the FEMA Region 9 Preparedness Workshop in Arizona? And so we're feeling kind of pulled in two different directions. Both are great events. I wasn't sure if you were aware of the conflict there.
Yes, hi Ken. Thank you so much for last year's comments. Unfortunately, that was the only week that we were able to schedule with the conference center. And we've typically have just held it in Fallon because it seems to be an easier spot for everyone in our rural and tribal partners to make. So unfortunately, we just weren't able to move that this year. I'm hoping we can still get enough attendees and maybe we can split time between, but I apologize for scheduling that at such a bad moment. I know it's really hard trying to split time between both functions.
Emily, it's John Backetall for the record, and for everyone's awareness, our public health actually scheduled their meeting first and it was brought to FEMA's attention. And similar reasons, they were unable to move theirs. So we do apologize for that. definitely not on our public health department. They were out there first, so we will do a better effort in coordinating this moving forward.
Thank you, John.
Okay, thank you for all that. With that, we will close out agenda item number 6, and we'll move on to agenda item number 8. This is the wildland fire season 2023 potential. This is for discussion only. Co-chair Ferguson will provide a briefing on the wildland fire potential for the 2023 fire season. Chief, back over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate it. So we had a really bad winter, which means we're gonna have a really good fire season. Oh, we had a really bad winter, which means we're gonna have a really good fire season. Being a firefighter is pretty easy. We always gotta predict the worst fire season that's ever gonna happen ever, based upon either the winter was really, really good, really, really bad. Been beat up with this for a lot of years now. We did a governor's briefing on the wildland fire season. We had the Nevada National Guard, Nevada Division of Emergency Management, Nevada Division of Forestry, the forest supervisor for the Humboldt-Toyabe Forest, the state director of fire for Bureau of Land Management, who has since moved on to a private company, along with the Nevada Fire Chiefs Association, to kind of talk about the various issues that are out there and the cooperation that exists in this space. Obviously, the wildland fire component of it is that land management owner, whether it's BLM, Forest Service, BIA, tribal, local government on private land. But we also got to remember that emergency management component of it. And that's the governor he's got a degree, he's got a master's degree in emergency management, homeland security. He brought up more about the flood issue and how that ties into the fire issue. Because while we got to think about that wildland fire perspective, we also got to think about what are we gonna do with the evacuation, the sheltering, the noticing, how do we do the community rebuilding post-fire, and how do we protect against that flood event that we know will follow that fire because we've eliminated the vegetation on that landscape. So initially I start off with, we had a good winter, so it's a good fire season. And that is the prediction that's going to be a late fire season, July-ish start, although Douglas County did have a half acre that burned fairly decently in the lighter fuels on the base of the Sierras on Sunday because of the wind-driven event. So we're expecting fires to burn below 6,000 feet right now, and it's really going to be in that cheatgrass. The good news we had is from all that snow that we had, it packed down all last year's cheatgrasses because we haven't had a good snow in a couple of years, so that cheatgrasses keep standing up, and that allows us to have an early fire season because there's cheatgrass been dead for multiple years. With that snowpack, it compacts it down, less volume to surface ratio from air to the mass. And so it makes it a little harder for that to burn. So the only thing we're worried about this year really to start with is that new grass growth from this year. And we're trying to transition, obviously, after a fire, we want to get rid of that cheatgrass. We want to prevent that growth of cheatgrass in these areas. Cheatgrass grows for 27 days and it looks really gorgeous when it turns purple right before it turns brown. And then that becomes our fire threat at that time. Our heavier fuels, you're still going to see a lot of that snowpack that's up high, so we won't see those heavier fuels really ready to go yet. That medium range, the sagebrush ecosystem will probably be there by the end of the season as we start seeing the moistures dry up. Although Lake Tahoe Basin Management Unit is kind of worried a little bit about up there, the basin, because they do have a lot of down and dead trees, mainly bug kill, that obviously aren't taking on moisture. So we can't forget that we still have those hazard trees out there, those hazard fuels that are still ready to burn, even if we do have good moisture years, because they're not taking moisture on being dead and standing. So July-ish, remember local government is our largest resource provider. We always talk about Forest Service, BLM, Park Service, all the federal, there's 5 DOI agencies in the Forest Service that all provide wildland fire, and they're good on the long term, but the people who are fighting the fire in the short term really are our local government partners. And that was the thing that we made it through the, not only the forest manager from the Humboldt-Toyabe, but BLM, that it really is relying upon our local folks to get that initial attack, because that's where we stop these fires at, is with that initial attack. I also serve on Casey, the state forest, and I are both on the Wildland Fire Mitigation Management Commission. It's a congressionally chartered body. We had about 4 months left of research to write a report to Congress on how we overhaul the entire wildland fire system nationally. Tons of different partners on this group. from local government, state government, federal agencies, all the undersecretaries, the Secretary for Department of Interior, the Secretary of Department of Ag, Secretary of Homeland Security are all members of our commission with us, along with tribal nations. And so we're having a lot of interesting conversations. And one of the talks we're really having is how do we push more good fire out there? And really looking, and Crystal Harjo at last year's tribal conference we held in Reno, she was able to give me the video of that tribal nation in California where they're reintroducing fire to their landscape, not only for the fire prevention part of it, but also for cultural heritage. So we're having a lot of conversations about how do we make sure we do those things as well as we refine what wildland fire looks like in the future. So hopefully we'll see something good come out. Our report's due to Congress in October, about the time that our fire season is probably going to be ramping up, and then we'll be dying down a little bit around that time because of weather, and then transitioning down to Southern California for their fire season. Always seems to take off around that time of year. I'll open any questions anybody's got. If anybody's got a crystal ball, that's probably the best way to prevent or protect or to decide whether or not it's gonna be the worst fire season ever. But until then, I'll tell you it's gonna be the worst fire season ever, because that's what we do every year to get everyone afraid, so that way they're ready.
Thank you, Chief, for that. You're right, that video, I still remember that video and talk about it a lot. That was a great video, very informative. Are there any questions from the members before we move on, or comments?
Harriet, Stacy Montooth has a question.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Montu? Are you there?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon. I wanted to just add a couple of supplementary comments to what the chief reported. I'm the executive director of the Nevada Indian Commission, and on a regular, I guess annually, I'm invited to attend the governor's briefing as I'm part of his cabinet. I think as the chief alluded to, certainly you all are the experts, but I wanted to let you know that I think, finagled an invite for the future at this event. And I want to alert you all to try and maybe put a save the date on your calendar for early May. What I've been able to do is work with Forester Casey, and we will invite our tribal chairs. Again, it's the governor's briefing, so it is appropriate to invite the highest elected official from all of our different tribal nations. And hopefully with you knowing that this invitation is going to come in early May. It's my understanding that this briefing is always held in May to coincide with the Wildfire Awareness Month, but depending on what the governor's schedule is, that's when it's penciled in. So maybe at the end of April, keep that in mind, that your tribal leader should be getting an invite to this event. And as is typical, not always, but as typical, usually those types of invitations include a +1. And hopefully in this case, your tribal chair would think, oh, I should bring my emergency management coordinator, or oh, I should bring my fire chief. But hopefully that'll be something to look forward to in the future. I find these briefings extremely, extremely valuable. Thanks for giving me some time.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the comments. That's very important and a good reminder to keep an eye out for those invitations, and remind my my leaders here to also keep an eye out for them. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, we will close out agenda item number 8, and we will move on to agenda item number 9. This is the spring thaw. This is for discussion only with Bill Elliott from DEMHS. Mr. Elliott will provide NTECC with an outline of Nevada's spring thaw preparedness efforts. Mr. Elliott, I turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you. This is Bill Elliott, Preparedness Manager for the Division of Emergency Management. For the record, the Nevada Operations Center is in an active monitoring state. We are holding 2 regional calls per week, which go along the major river basins. One, the eastern Nevada with the Humboldt Range and most of the rural areas on that side. And one with the Truckee, Carson, and Walker River on the left side or on the western side, looking at those river basins. We have our staff activated in the NDOC. If you need sandbags or property protection, contact your tribal liaison, and we will work with you to get that property protection. We're expecting peak flows in the Carson and Walker river basins in the next 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the weather. We can have it earlier, we can have it later, depending on whether the weather, if it gets warmer or if we get any rain on snow. So it's dependent on what is going on up in the mountains. That's one of the reasons why we're working very closely with the National Weather Service and NOAA with the water predictive flows. So if flooding becomes imminent, other resources may become available, including sandbags, sandbag fillers, ESCO barriers, inmate crews, excavators, those kinds of things if it becomes imminent. But right now, you should make a plan for what kind of protection your vulnerable areas are. And now is the time to do that kind of protection, the sandbag protection. Also do some training with your staff and work with us. We can help with that. Exercises with your staff, work with us. We can help you with that. If you're expecting, if you're expecting DEM or the county or FEMA to save you, we're going to be just too late. So you have to be the people, and your organizations have to be proactive in really doing the protection right now. Now is the time, because we have this lull, which could be a week, could be 2 weeks, could be 4 weeks. We don't know. But right now is the time to do your protection. Also talk with individual people to get them prepared, their individual preparedness, like having a kit, like having 3 days of food and water, and understanding where the evacuation areas are and what those routes are. If you're having like a public meeting or like a tribal council meeting, you can talk about those kinds of things and to put it in their mind that really it's going to be the people that are protecting their own homes that's going to be the best bang for their buck. Also, make your county emergency manager your best friend, because they have some resources that you may not have, and they can be a real big asset to you. So those are some of the things that we're doing for division with the Division of Emergency Management on behalf of all the different jurisdictions, including the tribes. Pending any questions, that's in my report.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. Are there any questions from the members for Mr. Elliott? All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. And with that, we'll close out agenda item number 9, and we'll move on to agenda item number 10. This is an update from the Intertribal Council of Nevada. This is for discussion only. This is with Cliff Banuelos. Cliff on the call. Okay, he's the Tribal State Environmental Liaison for ITCN. Mr. Banuelos will provide the NTECC with an update of ITCN activities related to the support of tribal emergency management and health clinics. Mr. Banuelos, are you there?
Hey, Harry, he said he might not be available. He was going to be between some cell phone communications. And I'm trying to remember what his update was. He had two small updates.
I
Oh.
have them here, Chief.
Oh, you've got them there?
Yeah, I have them.
Thank you.
So according to his email, he said his report is only to promote the June 1st Great Basin event, where Desert Research Institute and Intertribal Council of Nevada will start planning for a statewide tribal climate change resiliency plan. And as part of that, we'll address drought mitigation and erosion caused by floods and heavy rain and snowfall. He said he shared the flyer, which is part of our attachments for the meeting. So we do have the flyer for the Great Basin Tribal Alliance. He said he was also going to touch upon his work with NDEP. We have not seen any contamination caused by flooding near the Anaconda copper mine cleanup site. He said the flood devices put in place seem to have held. That site is near the lands of the Urington Paiute tribe. And he said that's all he had to report at this time. Of course, if you have any questions for him, please reach out to him directly. And as Chief said, he was traveling today. He was going to try to call in, but he was worried that he would lose cell signal. So with that, we will go ahead and close out agenda item number 10. And we will move on to agenda item number 11. This is an update from the Nevada Indian Commission. This is for discussion only with Executive Director Stacy Montooth. Ms. Montooth will provide NTECC with an update of NIC activities related to the support of tribal emergency management and health clinics. Director Montooth, I will turn the floor over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Before I start, I just want to acknowledge you are a great moderator for these meetings. Thank you very much for not only your amazing skills, but for putting yourself in a position to lead this group. Very well done. Again, I'm Stacy Montooth. I'm the Executive Director of the Nevada Indian Commission. The Indian Commission's overall charge is to improve the quality of life for our 28 tribal nations, bands, colonies, and then the 62,000 urban Indians who choose to make Nevada their home. Certainly, there's a big tie between quality of life and emergency management. I'd like to take a page out of Chief Fulgerson's book. I appreciated hearing about the legislation that is pending or making its way or going to be stopped right now, not necessarily specifically tied to emergency management, but anything that impacts our tribal nations, because there absolutely are ties to what you all do. So if I may, I just quickly like to give you more information about some of the actions and the work by the Nevada Indian Commission down at the Capitol. I can share a spreadsheet with you all too, if that's of interest, but right now we have AB 19 that's pending. It's been heard by the Natural Resources Committee. It's specifically related to expanding channel clearances, maintenance, restoration, surveying, and this would include tribal programs. Right now, under certain circumstances, our tribal professionals have to do certain licensings to participate in this. And this bill would revamp that approach. I know you all work very closely with your environmental directors maintenance, your grounds crews. So that certainly might be something that you're interested in. The other thing that the other item that the Nevada Indian Commission is watching that I think really does connect with your all's day-to-day operation. It's actually coming out of the Department of Health and Human Services, AB 24. So that's related to emergency medical services, and it revises the committee makeup of a committee on emergency medical services. And that would add a member who is either a volunteer or is employed by emergency agencies, organizations, and those that operate to provide emergency medical services on tribal land. Certainly you all are the first defense to that. So AB 24, we also have AB 71, that's related to environmental justice. Trying to stay as apolitical as possible. It involves climate change, which often is connected to wildfires. So allowing an organization to study concerns about environmental justice, and then to provide assistance in future policies, absolutely connects with the work that you all are doing. And then a few other things that it's always good to talk about, especially when you have a room full of Native professionals. Actually, on Friday, AB 73 is going to be heard again. This is a BDR that would allow not just Native students, but anyone who's graduating from public high school to wear cultural or religious regalia. We have AB 84. And that allows our relatives, anyone, I guess, with the proper identification to be admitted to state parks, conservation and natural resource areas for free. Again, there could be a connection. AB 125, Senator Shea Backus, a tribal citizen, is sponsoring a bill that would try to fill some of the gaps with missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. That actually involves, or could potentially involve, some special training for those folks that are going into law enforcement. I have joked that all of us should become doctors, and I mean like PhDs, that kind of doctors. AB 150 would address we call it the fee waiver, and that's for any NSHE institution. We're working to try to close some gaps that were unintended when that bill passed the last legislative session. It also could possibly be expanded to include anyone from any tribal nation, those 52,000 urban Indians, that they would be able to go to Nevada Institutes of Higher Learning, maybe become, experts, get a doctorate in environmental science, and then go into emergency management or something along those lines. So that might be something that you all are interested for your professional careers. And then a couple of bills, AB 166, 167, relating to foster care. That, of course, is always important in Indian country. We've got the big Supreme Court decision coming out about ICWA. And there's a bill that would also do some studies related to maternal health. That could, again, be connected to the everyday work that you all do. I'm sure everybody on this call is aware that our relatives in Hawaii are looking for a new school. So that is coming up. And then the final thing that I wanted to mention that really could impact this group and all of our, I guess, emergency services. Assemblyman Watts is working on tweaking the requirement for all departments in the state to have a tribal liaison. This would be a special position cut out with specific duties related to working with our tribal liaisons. So that's SB 94. If there's any questions you all have, please take the floor, or if you want to text or email me, I'm happy to answer. And again, I'm happy to share the spreadsheet I have in case anybody is interested in more detail. Thank you, Chair.
Are there any questions first for Director Montu? Okay, hearing none, thank you for that report. We appreciate that. And with that, we will close out agenda item number 11 and we'll move on to agenda item number 12. This is the Nevada Public Bodies updates. This is for discussion only. Tribal representatives appointed to the following Nevada public bodies may provide an update on their role with each public body, as well as initiatives and projects that impact Nevada tribes. First is the Nevada Resilience Advisory Committee, provided by co-chair Dave Fogerson. Chief, I turn it back over to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. So we had, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, we had the Nevada Resilience Advisory Committee, the Committee on Finance, and in the Homeland Security Commission, all three in a row. At the NRAC meeting, our primary focus is all the same items we've talked about here at this meeting. And then the only additional item that we had on there was to make the recommendations to the Committee on Finance on how to spend about $4.2 million worth of Homeland Security funds. And those were actually fairly well spread between the state, across the state, rural, north, south. Everybody kind of got some of those. So it was a good little meeting to take a look at people's projects. And I really think the ones that really do meet the Homeland Security criteria were the ones that were funded. A couple weren't funded, but they're also kind of a little borderline on whether they actually were Homeland Security, true Homeland Security requests or not. In a report, pending any questions.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions for Chief Fogerson? Okay, hearing none. Next is the Nevada Commission on Homeland Security, which is a report that should be given by myself. However, co-chair Fogerson has graciously offered to help me. I don't know if you can see behind me, but all my notes and everything are in boxes because we have construction here, and I could not find my notes from this meeting. So this is the an update from the Nevada Commission on Homeland Security. And Chief, I really appreciate your help with this. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely, ma'am, not a problem at all. So this commission, I talked earlier, we had the Nevada Resilience Advisory Committee. That group provides advice and counsel to my position. Then we have the Committee on Finance, and then we have the commission. And the commission is chaired by the governor. And at this meeting, he appointed the sheriff, the incoming sheriff from Clark County as the co-chair or vice chair of the commission. This commission also heard the recommendation from the NRAC committee on spending not only that state Homeland Security funds, but also what we call urban area working group and urban area security initiative funds from Southern Nevada. That's a very specific area within Clark County, really the strip, a little bit of Henderson, some of Northtown, and some of the city of Las Vegas. And they get an additional $5.2 million for them. That then gets coupled with the state's $4.25 million. And this commission made the recommendation to the governor and myself on how to allocate those funds. And our grant staff is currently diligently working hard to try to get the grant now in by the 18th, which means the 16th, because it takes 2 days for the federal system to catch up. We also had a lively discussion about cybersecurity. We had various groups that are engaged on the cybersecurity, Homeland Security front, give presentations about what they do, because cybersecurity is not what most people think. It's not a one-stop shop. Everyone's got a little piece of that mission. So we talked about how we have the Office of Cyber Defense Coordination, and Akeen has talked to this group before. And then we have the state EATS, the computer system for the state that does some cybersecurity stuff on their system. And then we have the FBI, we have the Division of Emergency Management, and then we also have at the federal level, we have DHS intelligence and analysts, and then we also have the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Administration. So we discussed the roles of every one of those. It's really important to keep everyone in their lanes. That way we work collectively together and not against one another. And then the last big piece from that meeting, we talked about the incident management teams. It's a requirement under NRS that we discuss it at every meeting. And this meeting was pretty nice to talk about how we've been trying to work on building these teams for 2 legislative sessions now since the bill was passed to direct the division to do so. And during the floods, we actually deployed 2 incident management teams, one to Eureka and one to Lincoln County to assist them during the flood events and make that work out right. In the report, and any questions, ma'am?
Thank you, Chief. I really appreciate it. Are there any questions regarding the Nevada Homeland Security update provided by the chief? Okay, hearing none. I'm sorry, please go ahead.
I got a question for the Homeland Security. The grant process already went through, right, Chief?
Yes, sir.
Okay, did we have any tribes supply or any special funding for NTECC through Homeland Security?
Not through Homeland Security. We do that through the Emergency Management Performance Grant.
Okay.
No tribal nations put in for it. And that's something that's been kicked around for a number of years, is that only certain tribes can go direct to FEMA for the Homeland Security grant process. And Crystal looked into it before for us, and it's very specific. You have to have certain things on your reservation or close to the reservation land in order to qualify. So one of the things we need to continue to do is push FEMA, because there's only, like I said, at the state level, we only have $4 million to share between everyone. So I'd really love to talk about how we talk to a congressional delegation to expand that tribal Homeland Security grant process, especially as we're starting to see lithium mines pop up in different areas and some of the various threats that we're going to see in the future. That'd be nice to have them specific for the tribal nations to go direct, with the states helping you, but not trying to take some of that money. Not unlike the cybersecurity grant that the feds released that was to go to the states to be given to locals, and they keep saying that they're going to have a tribal supplement for that, but we have not seen any information on that. So the more that we can do on the congressional delegation to push them, that way we get more money to solve some more of our problems.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we will next move on to the, let's see, where are we? Right here. The Nevada Commission on Homeland Security Finance Committee, also provided by co-chair David Fogerson. Back to you, Chief.
Thank you, ma'am. So this was the in-between meeting. We probably should have made C, B in the order so that way it flowed correctly. So the Committee on Finance heard the recommendations from the NRAC and from the Urban Area Working Group, and they provided that recommendation to move forward to the Homeland Security Commission. We also talked about the items that you're going to see later on in this committee about the grant audit, the grant status reports and our audit results, to make sure the Finance Committee is always up to date on those. And then we also discussed a reallocation of funding for Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department project that was previously permitted, but we had to hold it again. Any report, any questions, ma'am?
Thank you, sir. Any questions regarding the Homeland Security Finance Committee? Okay, hearing none. Next, we will move on to the Nevada State Emergency Response Commission, provided by Lance Chandler. Mr. Chandler, are you on the call?
Lance is unable to make it, and he did let me know that he has nothing to report.
Copy, thank you. Okay, and then last but not least, the Nevada Interstate Mutual Aid Committee, provided by Eric Wilson from DEMHS. Mr. Wilson, I turn it over to you, sir.
And Eric's got no report. He's out today, and we haven't had a meeting of the committee between the last NTECC meeting and this one.
Okay, thank you. I was going to say thank you, everyone, for the updates, but really thank you, Chief, for all the updates. And I will close out agenda item number, that was 12. Close out agenda item number 12, and we'll move on to agenda item number 13. This is an update from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, Region 9, This is for discussion only with Crystal Harjo. Ms. Harjo will provide the NTECC with an overview of FEMA Region 9 all hazards, activities, and upcoming events. This will include training, tribal partner engagements, tribal consultation opportunities, and outreach activities at the regional and Nevada-specific level. Ms. Harjo, the floor is yours, ma'am.
Thanks, Harriet. Just real quick to do a quick report out over Q1, mainly working on the winter events around the region. I was deployed for the March winter event in going out to Yamba to do a site visit to determine whether or not they would meet their threshold for a declaration. I am awaiting orders to be deployed out for the Nevada presidential declaration, and I will be working with the team from FEMA in determining whether or not we're going to go out and see several other tribal areas that had mentioned small impacts to determine their needs. Went to the 2023 Center of Domestic Preparedness Tribal Training Week. That was a huge success. Kept me busy in assisting our FEMA Tribal Affairs team headquarters and as well as Region 9 staff with some incident-related issues. A couple of weeks ago, went to Washington, D.C., where we had a convening of all of the regional tribal liaisons and tribal fits at headquarters, where we sat down and talked about tribal specific issues, not only for the positions, but for our tribes that we serve. We were able to sit down with Administrator Criswell, Deputy Administrator Cooks, the Office of External Affairs, Jason Knighton, as well as BIA, Jason Steinmetz, and DOT's Tribal Liaison Milo Booth. We also held a tribal consultation for the Tribal Declaration Pilot Guidance while we were there. All in all, it went pretty good. We were able to discuss ways and options and recommendations on how we can enhance the tribal affairs program to better serve our nation. So our team is working on a report right now that will be handed over to Administrator Criswell to work on. So that was a good thing. Also got requested to help per Deputy Administrator Eric Hooks and CDP Superintendent Tony Russell with coordinating a couple of tribal trainings for the National Native American Law Enforcement Association Conference held in Las Vegas in August. We will be providing the 583, the Emergency Management Overview for Tribal Leaders course, as well as the IS 235, which is emergency planning. These are two of the courses that were hugely requested based off of last year's event. So been working hard with my Arizona counterpart as well as CDP and the association and headquarters on that. Let's see. So what's coming up, there's two things. Obviously, we're talking about Region 9's Tribal Preparedness Workshop, Partners Workshop. That's going to be held down in Chandler, Arizona for June, sorry, I think that date's wrong. Give me one sec. June 13th through the 15th. Unfortunately, as everyone mentioned, it does have a conflict with public health event in Fallon. We were all aware of that. I try to work it out with PHP to let them know. Ultimately, it's going to be the tribes who choose to attend which one. That one's more public health preparedness, while ours is more the emergency management aspect of it. We do have our FEMA programs coming again. We're going to be talking about the declaration process for the tribes, as well as mitigation, planning. We're going to have other federal partners in the House, such as CISA and BIA, EPA, and USGS. And this is a result of conversations that we've had over the last several months, especially due to the weather incidents here in Region 9, that there's been a lot of duplication of efforts and lack of coordination between agencies and the tribes and the states. So trying to get a streamlined process going, so where we're not inundating our tribes with information and questions while they're busy working on response and recovery. So working on that. We do have invitational travel for one person per tribe. The save the dates and the registration information has gone out to all the emergency managers who are listed on our contact sheets. For our state partners, that was sent to all of the state administrators, and our federal partners got their invites today, I believe. So working on that. If anyone's interested, or if you didn't receive the link, please let me know, and I will be happy to send that out. We're anticipating that this workshop is going to be held annually every June. The dates are not set in stone due to rotating this event within the 3 states. So next year it'll be held somewhere in California. But just a heads up that this will be reoccurring, as well as, PHP's summit. I think that is it. One more thing, sorry. There's an opportunity for our Region 9 partners, our tribes in Nevada, to participate in FEMA Region 9's Tribal Emergency Communications Annex update. The information was sent again to all of the tribes, emergency managers who are on our contact list. Basically, we are asking for the participation to update this annex, just asking questions about tribal emergency communications. The benefits of the tribes participating is a grant justification. So if we could show federal validation of need, and we will give you a copy of the document which proves this, it'll help with any grant funding opportunities that the tribes may go for. They will be down in Chandler to talk. We've already had several tribes, including Washoe and Reno Sparks, sign up for this, but if there's any other tribes who are willing to participate, please let me know, and I will put you in touch with the people who are overseeing this project. They're hoping to get it done by 1 October of this year. So if there's interest, please let me know. Pending any questions, that's all I have.
Thank you, Crystal. Are there any questions for Crystal regarding her update? Okay, hearing no questions or seeing no hands raised. Thank you, Crystal, for that. I really appreciate it. We will close out agenda item number 13, and we'll move on to agenda item number 14. This is updates from the DEMHS Tribal Liaison staff. This is for discussion only with Josie Burnett and Jay Martin. Ms. Burnett and Mr. Martin will be providing NTECC with updates in the following areas. Ms. Burnett, do you want to start us off, followed by Mr. Martin? Josie, are you on the call? Were you able to make it?
I'm here, Harriet.
Perfect.
Josie Burnett for the record. Yeah, I can go ahead and start. So looking at tribal preparedness activities and projects, as it has already been mentioned in previous agenda items, A reminder about the Rural Preparedness Summit. I'm excited to be working with their team and incorporating tribal specific sessions and speakers. As was already mentioned, we're still trying to lock in a tribal plenary speaker. So if anybody has any thoughts on possible speakers, please reach out to me. And just to add on, another tribal specific session that will be offered is a Safe Talk training put on by Nevada's Office of Suicide Prevention. It's a community-oriented suicide alertness training that prepares anyone, regardless of prior experience in training, to become a suicide alert helper. And then moving on, I still have about 60 Stop the Bleed kits to distribute on a first come, first served basis. I have a couple tribes that were interested, Moapa, Duckwater, Oahe, and Fallon so far in hosting a Stop the Bleed training. Oahe had been coordinating with Elko County in recent months, which is also or I'd also like to encourage your tribes to partner with other tribes in putting on these trainings or with your local and county partners in facilitating these trainings. So again, if any tribes are interested in coordinating these efforts, please reach out to me. And then looking specifically at our tribal communication boxes, the BGAN SIM cards for the satellite phones are in the process of being purchased, as those have recently expired and require a yearly renewal. So once those SIM cards are received, I will be sending those out to each tribe as soon as possible. And I will turn it over to Jay. Thank you.
Thanks, Josie. Yes, for my side of the programs goes the preparedness activities this last quarter. We had spring thaw events, most notably the Atmospheric River 2 event, where we had 8 tribes inundated, 4 declared emergency, states of emergency, 4 others either participated in mitigation, sandbagging and such. We've seen some really great coordination between the tribes, state, and counties during this time. Some great new partnerships were developed. It was very impressive. Other than that, we've also been hosting our monthly collaborative calls where we discuss flood preparedness, declaration recovery guidance, resource overview. We introduce different programs and their points of contact, et cetera, et cetera. We go over different things such as WebEOC, the Survey 123 app, the EM resource requests, different resources such as UACE and IHS Trans Am, et cetera, et cetera. We've also been doing individual technical assistance as it comes along, resource acquisitions, declaration recovery guidance again, grant application guidance, et cetera, et cetera. And in the meantime, just continuing to push out information as it comes across my desk, as well as gathering new resources such as contacts with nonprofit organizations and different government agencies, looking at their programs, seeing what they can offer. Preparedness projects. Currently involved in the works in collaborating with various agencies, including NEPA, to have tribal component for next year's summit. The Great Basin Tribal Alliance with Desert Research Institute. We're hoping to have something, an event for environmental management and emergency management sometime within this year or the next year, as well as collaboration with ITCN to do some food and PPE distribution. Also in the development stage of a resource manual. This too is in sort of collaboration with ITCN, just doing overview of tribal emergency management and collection of resources to use, just to have on hand. We have the county profile project going on, which will have the tribal inclusion. We are gathering demographic information and contact and resource information for that. That will help everybody statewide, including the tribes, be able to see all their local resources, have those contacts ready to go, and for any emergency managers, understand the demographics of various communities. meetings and conferences lately. I recently debriefed on the spring thaw situation at the ITC and Environmentals Managers Meeting. We've had 2 flood exercises, one for Lyon County, which Yerington Paiute Tribe and Walker River Paiute Tribe attended. There, the Elko County flood exercise, which the South Fork Band and Wells Band attended. Participated in the statewide blackout exercise, where we had Washoe Tribe and Pyramid Lake representation. Reno Sparks Tribal Health Center hosted an MGT 403 underserved populations preparedness planning for rural responders and volunteers. I attended that, and as well as an active shooter and public environment training. Oh, sorry, and that's what I have. Josie, do you have any more for meetings and conferences?
I do not.
So besides that, like Josie said, we were also preparing for the R9 conference and the Rural Preparedness Summit, as well as the National CERT Conference, which I will talk about in the next. So grant spend down process. We have several grants accumulated that we are working to close out. So this fiscal year, at the end of this fiscal year, we will be closing out 4 grants on my side. That is the 2019 HSGP Tribal NIMS. We're going to be using the remainder balance to finalize the updates on the communication boxes. The 2020 HSGP Tribal NIMS grant that will also be closing. We have a few options in how to close that out as well. And then we have 2 CERT grants, a 2019 and a 2020, each for $10,000 for mostly travel. So spend down project for that is sending a team to the National CERT Conference. This is for the development of trainers, CERT trainers, to begin redeveloping CERT programs within the tribal communities. Josie, do you have anything else for grant spend down progress?
I do not, Jay. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. Anybody have any questions? Daniel? Daniel? No?
Yeah, do you have any tribal cert training scheduled or coming up?
Not at this moment, no. We don't have any CERT trainers on our team. That is what this project is about, attending the National CERT Conference. So we will have our certifications by the end of that conference, which is at the end of June 25th through July 2nd, I believe. I will be included on that, so I will become a trainer myself. We have 2 representatives out of Eastern Nevada and 1 in Southern Nevada as a way to jumpstart this tribal CERT program development.
Okay, because yeah, I know a couple tribes did contact me regarding CERT training, and I did refer them to you.
Oh, yes. Actually, there is one that we are working on now that will be in July with Duckwater. That is in the works. We've been working on that for a little while. We're just securing some details now.
Okay, because McDermott also did contact me.
Oh.
And I referred them to you.
Okay, I will connect with McDermott about that. We'll definitely be kickstarting off a CERT tribal tour come this fall, hopefully starting as soon as this fall. Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you both for those updates. I really appreciate it. And with that, we will close out agenda item number 14. And next we'll move on to agenda item number 15. This is the DEMHS audit results for 2022 and 2023. This is for discussion only with Jared Franco. The NTECC will be provided an overview of the various audits the DEMHS has undergone in relation to grants management and COVID. Mr. Franco, I turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Jared Franco, CFO for the record. Last meeting, I talked about 2 audits that DEM is currently undergoing. One by I Bailey, which is a state contract audit firm for the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery fund. And the other one being Nevada's executive audit branch going through DEM's financial records. Since last meeting, the DEM has begun a 3rd audit by the LCB's audit team, and it's for the support for federal grants testing. This one's more of a research rather than audit. I expect good things to come out of this audit to try to help DEM with some of the match that we receive and need for all the federal grants that we receive. As always, I'll keep the committee updated on any findings or information. As of now, we have not received any yet. So with that, that's into my report, and I'll field any questions you may have.
Sir, are there any questions for Mr. Franco regarding his report? Okay, hearing none. All right, sir, thank you for that. We will close out agenda item number 15 and we'll move on to agenda item number 16. This is the grant status report. This is for discussion only with Suze Coyote from DEMHS. The NTECC will receive quarterly grant reports, which will outline the spending status on Emergency Management Performance Grant, Homeland Security Grant Program, and Emergency Preparedness Working Group Grant. The NTECC will also be briefed on the status of current and expected grants. Ms. Coyote, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. This is Suze Coyote for the Division of Emergency Management. In your grant meeting materials, our grant status report is attached. All subawards for all open grant programs are listed in the report. The period of performance for each grant year is shown in the row preceding those grants. It shows the subrecipient agency, project, original award amount, reobligated funds if received, the amount spent as of the last report, the funding stream or grant, and any deobligated amount, and the percentage of the award spent as of the last report received in that order. The federal reporting narratives for Homeland Security Grant Program and Nonprofit Security Grant Program are also attached, which provide the programmatic update for those grant programs. All of this information is as of 12/30/22. The new quarter just ended, the due date just passed. So the next meeting will have an updated grant status report. The late reporting for quarter ending 12/30/22 is also included in this agenda item. The status of expected grants, the Homeland Security Program, Nonprofit Security Program, and Emergency Management Performance Grant Program. The state's applications are on track to be submitted by the due date of May 18th. The state and local cybersecurity grant program, Nevada's cybersecurity plan is under review, and we'll notify stakeholders when we're able to release the applications for the grant. That's the end of my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have regarding it.
Thank you, Ms. Coyote. Are there any questions from the members? Okay, hearing none. Seeing hands raised. All right, thank you, Ms. Coyote. Appreciate that. We will close out agenda item number 16 and we'll move on to agenda item number 17. This is public comment. This is for discussion only. No action may be taken upon a matter raised under this item of the agenda until the matter itself has been specifically included on the agenda as an item upon which action may be taken. Public comments may be limited to 3 minutes per person at the discretion of the chairs. Comments will not be restricted based on viewpoint. To provide testimony during this period of public comment via telephone, please call in anytime after 12:30 p.m. by dialing the number provided on the agenda. When prompted to provide the meeting ID, also provided on the agenda. When prompted for the participant ID, please press pound. When asked for to provide public comment, please press *6 to unmute your phone and *6 again when your comments are complete. Please be advised that the YouTube stream will be between 60 to 90 seconds behind the live meeting. So if you'd like to present public comment, please call in using the number provided on the agenda to hear the meeting live. While we wait for the lag time to catch up, I'd like to go back. We had a comment from Ms. Navis. Are you still on the call? Let's see her. Okay, I don't see her on the call. I was hoping to swing back around to her since she had an issue with her microphone. Okay, are there any comments up north?
No, ma'am.
Perfect. And are there any public comments on the phone?
Excuse me, no, ma'am. Sharon was shaking her head, so I was trying to answer for her.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll close out agenda item number 17. We'll move on to agenda item number 18, our favorite. This is adjournment. This is for discussion, possible action. May I have a motion to adjourn, please?
This is Dwayne Masters. I'll make that motion.
Sir, may I have a second?
This is Ross Rivera. I'll second that.
Thank you, sir. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
If there's anyone opposed, yeah. If there's any opposed, say no, please. All right, motion passes. Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned at 2:29. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you in 3 months.
Great meeting here.